Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Hoping my mic works here. My mic does work, so we're back. Excited to be here. Let me try to fix this really quickly. Excited to be back. It's been a long time, but we're back and we're getting everything better. I'm just going to set this up really quickly. Excited. Today I'm wearing my Miro Heiskanen 2019, excuse me, All-Star jersey. So excited about that. A couple of new additions with some Dallas Stars jerseys. But anyways, I hope everybody stayed safe. I hope that with the extra time that you guys have had during quarantine, that you are able to find yourself and do things that make you happy and things that are fun for you. And I just hope that you are not going crazy. A lot of people are going crazy, so I hope that you're finding something to keep you entertained. And anyways, we're back. And one of the last times that we had an episode, we were talking about sports and whether they were going to come back and how we may never see sports again. And there was just this whole talk, just trying to make sure my mic, so you guys can hear me correctly, but just trying to make sure, that sports were going to come back, and we weren't sure. We were just seeing what was going to happen, what was going on, the bubbles and things like that. And I feel like sports have been good in their return. It's been unfortunate that there hasn't been any fans, but that's I guess just the way the cookie crumbles, and especially with what's going on right now. I mean, the least people that can get together, the big groups, the better. But we've seen what a job the NHL and the NBA have done with creating their bubble and with getting all that organized, so that way their respective leagues and that sport can play their games and people can be happy. We've seen what the MLB has done. It's been tough in the majors to contain what's going on and to contain the COVID-19 virus, but baseball has done okay with it. At the beginning of the season, there were teams that were kind of struggling to keep it contained and to not have teams have an outbreak and have teams get completely infected. But baseball's come back; it's done a little bit better, so that's a good thing. Football is about to come back. There's a Sunday night game. My beloved Cowboys, they play the Rams on Sunday night, and there's a Thursday night game also featuring, I think, the Texans. So football's coming back too. So all the sports are coming back, but there could be a problem. So this is episode 20. This is the second episode during quarantine, but this is episode 20. And one of the problems I feel that can happen is that baseball is about to finish because the playoffs start, I believe, in 3 weeks. Football's barely starting, of course, but hockey and basketball are about to finish as well. So basketball's in the second round of the playoffs. Hockey's in the conference finals. So hockey's in the final right before the last series, and that's it. So there could be a problem where there may be a long time period with no sports, a couple of months, give or take. But football is going to be that sport that's going to carry on throughout, like with its regular season, with the regular time frame and time period for the season. And I'm much so looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to seeing what the NFL does to make sure that there's no outbreaks, and we'll wait and see if the season actually is going to be able to continue, and if the season's actually going to be able to be played out. And I'm just really excited, and I'm looking forward to that. I'm actually really much so looking forward. I'm just going to move really quickly here a little bit, but I'm actually much so looking forward to seeing what football does and what the NFL does. But today on this show, I wanted to talk a little bit about hockey, and actually not a little bit, a lot of bit about hockey. I wanted to talk about the Dallas Stars in particular. Again, giving credit to the NHL, give credit where credit's due. What a great job they've done. They were playing, at Edmonton's place in Edmonton, or Edmonton's place, Edwards Place, excuse me, in Edmonton, where the Edmonton Oilers played. Hockey had a qualifying round that featured teams that had the potential of making a run for the playoffs and had the potential to make the playoffs and get a wild card position, perhaps. And then they had a round robin for the top 4 seeds in each given conference, the East and the West, which is the Metropolitan and the Atlantic in the East, and the Central and the Western divisions in the West. So we were able to see that in the East, it was Philadelphia, Boston, Tampa Bay, and I don't remember who the other round robin team was, but yeah, I don't remember who the round robin team was. But in the West, there was Colorado, Vegas, Dallas, and St. Louis, and we were able to see that the round robin games and the qualifying games, hockey really got it right and how they dictated, who was going to be in playoffs, who, like, they gave the best teams that had the best records the best chance to make it. And it was honestly an even playing ground amongst all the teams, which was great. It was fantastic because there's an even playing ground. So that means that everybody has a fair chance. But if you played in the round robin games, it was given credit where credit's due again, where the hockey teams in the round robin were already guaranteed a spot in the first round. They were just playing games for seeding. In the qualifying round, if you were between the 5th seed and I believe the 12th seed, the 5th and the 12th seed, then that's where it was, the 12th seed could knock off the 5th seed, which happened in the Western Conference where Chicago knocked off Edmonton. But with the round robins, since those teams were already guaranteed a spot in the first round, those games were not as competitive, but the NHL got it right. In the teams that were in the round robin, most of them are still playing, and there's a couple of teams who weren't in the round robin that played in the first and second round, and I believe there's only one in the New York Islanders that's still playing right now. They play tonight at 7 p.m. 8 p.m. Eastern against the New York Islanders. Play the Tampa Bay Lightning. That's going to be a good game. Varlamov in goal for New York and Vasilevsky in goal for Tampa Bay. So hockey's done a great job. NBA's done a great job with the bubble, but we're going to talk today about the Dallas Stars. So I haven't been able to talk. I watched a lot of the playoffs. Luckily and happily, the Stars are in the Western Conference Finals for the first time since 2008, since they played Detroit, and they lost in 5 when they still had Brendan Morrow, Mike Modano, Sergei Zubov, and those guys. But and Marty Turco was our goaltender at the time. But Dallas hadn't been to the conference finals since 2008, and the Stars we're all too familiar with exiting early. And exiting, what I mean by that is being a great team. Everybody's sleeper team, and everybody's like, man, we should pick the Stars to win, and we should, the Stars, they're the number 1 seed, the number 2 seed, maybe they're the 7th seed, and they have a chance to make a run in the postseason. And anytime the Stars got to Game 7, it happened twice. I believe in 2014 and maybe like 2012 or 2011, they lost in the first round. But in 2016 and in 2016, they lose to St. Louis in Game 7. They're the number 1 seed. They lose Tyler Seguin to an Achilles tear, an injury where the skin, the blade of a skate, unfortunately cuts him on his Achilles, and he has to get that fixed. So he's out for the remainder of the playoffs. And then in 2019, they lose to St. Louis in double overtime, and that one really hurt. Pat Maroon. Somebody shoots after, I believe it was maybe like Alex Pietrangelo or something for St. Louis, shoots a puck through Ben Bishop, which was the Dallas goaltender at the time, gets through him, it's loose in the crease, and you know what happens when that happens. Pat Maroon slaps it in or just taps it in, and St. Louis goes on to win the final. And with the story for Dallas this year, Dallas felt, throughout the whole year that they took St. Louis to 7 games last year, and they lost in double overtime. And that gave them a lot of confidence when St. Louis went and won the whole thing, that, hey, we can, play and we can compete, and we can, we can get this done, and we can make a run and potentially be contenders for the Stanley Cup, which they were in 2019. But losing that Game 7 can kind of discredit them a little bit, which I didn't like, but as a fan, of course. But now in 2020, as I've mentioned in an earlier podcast, maybe like episode 15 or 16, Dallas acquires Joe Pavelski in the offseason. They acquire Corey Perry in the offseason. They acquire Andrei Sekera in the offseason. 2 playoff pedigree forwards. Joe Pavelski, storied career, first ballot Hall of Famer. Corey Perry can also be on the edge of a first ballot Hall of Famer, but Corey Perry's won a Stanley Cup with the Anaheim Ducks. He won an Art Ross Trophy, was the MVP of the NHL at one point, represented Canada. Joe Pavelski's represented the U.S. in the Olympics. And Andrei Sekera, a very, very good physical, big body defenseman, that Dallas needed. Dallas is a very defensive-minded team. Dallas is very defensive. They're very good at forechecking. They're very good at holding on to small leads when they need to, and playing the possession game and playing the time game. And when we looked at this year, they played well, but the problem with Dallas is that a lot of times when they get into that February, March part of the season, they tend to go on these losing streaks and these losing skids. And it stinks. It stinks that they go on these losing streaks and skids because they're like the third seed or the second seed, potentially even the first seed, and they end up not making the playoffs, or they end up being the seventh seed. And it's so unfortunate that they play so well throughout the year and they're in that spot and they lose 7 games in a row, 5 games in a row, 8 games in a row, and it's like, well, what do you do from there? How do you come out of that? How do you fix that? How do you go about that? And a lot of times, I believe in the 2017-18 season, they were the third seed with 10 games to go and they lost 7 straight and they ended up missing the playoffs. And then in 2018-19, they were the second seed and they ended up losing a bunch of games, and then they had to win the last game of the season to be the 7th seed, and to make the playoffs, to end up playing Nashville. So this year they get into that, they win the Winter Classic, they lose Jim Montgomery in December, they win the Winter Classic, and they get into that month of March and they had lost a bunch of games in a row. And then, of course, with the whole coronavirus thing going on, they cancel the season, or they don't cancel it, but they pause the season, they postpone it. And then as the season's coming back, we're all excited. Hey, maybe, they don't have that, mentality where, man, they're gonna, they're not gonna score well, they're gonna lose a lot of games. They don't open up the game scoring, and they come back, they play an exhibition game against Nashville, and they looked awful. Nashville goes up 2-0. Nashville wins 2-0. And then they play Vegas. Vegas goes up 1-0, and then Dallas scores 3 in 2 minutes. Dallas scores 3 in 2 minutes, play well, and then they end up losing. And then from that point on, I believe Ben Bishop was unfit to play after that. Their top goaltender, one of the top goaltenders in the league, Ben Bishop, he's unfit to play for the game against Colorado in the round robin and the game against Vegas in the round robin and St. Louis. But Dallas loses. They don't score against Colorado and they lose. They scored 3, but they lose to Vegas. They lose 2-0 to Nashville in an exhibition. And then miraculously, and this is a trend that's continued for Dallas, miraculously, they're down 1-0 to St. Louis. There's less than a minute left, and Joe Pavelski with an empty net on a one-timer hits a post, it goes in, and then Dallas wins in the shootout, making Dallas a third seed. So because Dallas is a third seed, Dallas ends up playing Calgary. And it's like, okay, well, Calgary, they're pretty decent. They have a lot of good talent, young talent, good players. Last year, they were the number 1 seed in the West, and they ended up losing in the first round of Colorado. And it's like this year, well, we'll see. Dallas is a 3 seed. They have, home ice advantage, but all the games are in Edmonton, so that doesn't really matter. But, they're the 3 seed, so they're going to play well. And, game 1, it's right away, Ben Bishop unfit to play, so Anton Hudobin's in net. And Calgary has Matthew Tkachuk, they have Johnny Gaudreau, they have Dylan Dubé, they have Toby Reeder, Riddick and Talbot are their, goaltenders. Sam Bennett, I'm just trying to think of a bunch of guys. Kobe Anderson, just a bunch of different guys for Calgary. Just a young, very talented team, and they win game 1, and then Dallas ends up winning game 2, but Dallas blows a lead in game 2. So Dallas blows a lead in game 2. Jamie Alexiak ends up, winning the game with 30 seconds left on a pass from Corey Perry. And, you're cheering, and it's like, but Dallas throughout, the round robin, they struggled to score, and their losing streak continued. And, they had won 2 out of their last 10 games dating back to the regular season within the round robin. So Dallas wins game 2, and then they lose game 3. And in game 3, they get shut out by Cam Talbot. And it's like, oh, man, Dallas is struggling to score, and, all these things are happening. And then in game 4, Dallas, it's back and forth. Dallas is down, I believe, 4-3 with about 3 minutes left. And then Jason Dickinson for Dallas scores a forward, and Corey Perry interferes with Cam Talbot, the goaltender, goalie interference. They call it, And it's like, man, Dallas is going to go down 3-1 against Calgary. They're the 3 seed. This can't happen. And then the heroics of Joe Pavelski again, who actually had a hat trick, this is a funny stat for the Stars. The Stars, the Minnesota North Stars and the Dallas Stars, there had never been a player who had recorded a playoff hat trick before. And in this postseason, there's been 3 hat tricks. And I'll get to the other 2 eventually. But Joe Pavelski in Game 4 against Calgary, they're the away team technically, and he has a hat trick. He ties the game. Calgary's 11 seconds away from taking a 3-1, commanding 3-1 lead against Dallas, and Joe Pavelski ties it. They go into overtime. John Klingberg, from Tyler Seguin, John Klingberg shoots a wrister, juicy rebound. 11 seconds left. Joe Pavelski ties it. Goes into overtime. Calgary had a lot of chances in overtime, but then Dallas, John Klingberg hits the post. John Klingberg's a defenseman, if you don't know who John Klingberg is. John Klingberg hits the post, and then he comes back. Jamie Benn has a puck, passes it to John Klingberg at the point, and he risks one, or actually 1x1, and Radulov gets a slight piece of it. I mean, the slightest piece that you could think of, like the puck barely touches the stick. They give him the credit for the goal, and Dallas wins in overtime. So it's a 2-2 series. And then in Game 5, Dallas ends up winning 2-1, where Jamie Benn scores from Tyler Seguin, opening up the game, and then John Klingberg ends up scoring a wrister from the slot, and Dallas wins 2-1. So then it's like, okay, well, now Dallas, they were down 2-1, and they win 2 games in a row, so they're up 3-2. Game 6, Dallas is a designated away team, so they're wearing white, unfortunately. But again, it doesn't matter because the games are held in the same place. And Dallas came out awful in that game. And again, guys, I'm just recapping Dallas's playoff run. As you can see in the title, this is Dallas's playoff run so far. I know there's going to be a lot more, hoping and praying that there's going to be a lot more. I love the Stars, and just recapping what they've done in the playoffs. And we're just, looking at how their game has just shifted to what we know as fans what Dallas Stars hockey is. So we get to Game 6, and Ben Bishop is still unfit to play. Ben Bishop won Game 2 for Dallas against Calgary, but I don't know what he has. He may have a lower back injury or a leg injury or something. But Anton Hudobin, who's the Kazakhstani scorpion, as Razor, the announcer for Darryl Ray, they call him Razor, the announcer for the Stars, likes to say, has been in net for Dallas, and he's been great. But in Game 6, Ben Bishop is unfit to play, so that means that the 21-year-old Jake Ottinger is on the bench. He's a rookie, has no NHL experience whatsoever. Absolutely none. Has not played a minute in the NHL. Has been great in the AHL for the Texas Stars, but not in the NHL. So he's on the bench, and Calgary comes out swinging. I mean, they put up 3 goals. There's 10 minutes left in the first period, and it's like by the 10-minute mark, they're going to have 5 goals, and this is just going to be bad. Hudobin doesn't have it. Nobody's playing well. What's going on? How do we fix this? What is happening right now? And Rick Bowness calls a timeout, and everybody's saying they're going to put Jake Ottinger in. This is horrible. This is going to be bad. Johnny Gaudreau scored. It's just going to be bad. Anderson scores. We just need to. I believe Mangiapane scored the opening goal too. So it's like, man, well, what's going to happen? What's going on? So Rick Bowness calls the best timeout in Dallas Stars history. Heiskanen scores on a one-timer for Dallas, and then at the end of the first period, it's 3-1 in favor of Calgary. But Dallas scored on a power play at the end. Heiskanen. By the way, just really quickly, I'm going to sway away from the little bit. I'm wearing my Heiskanen jersey right now. He's my favorite Dallas Star. He is an absolute stud. He's 21 years old, from Finland. He was a 3rd overall pick in the 2017 NHL draft. And I don't know why there were 2 picks ahead of him, but either way, he has just been an absolute stud. He's ahead. He's leading the polls right now for the Conn Smythe Trophy. Second-year defenseman, offensive defenseman, who just skates so well, almost effortlessly. He's a part of the Finnish Mafia in Dallas. And he has, I believe, 20 or 21 points in the playoffs, which is unbelievable. And, I mean, him, John Klingberg, having that offensive, defensive, minded style of play, along with Jamie Alexiak and Sekera and Fedun and all of these other defensemen, is Handley. It's great for Dallas. But Miro Haskin, and just the way he skates, his IQ, his mind, his passing ability, his shooting ability, his power play, everything that he does for this Dallas team is just unbelievable. And I'm so excited that, he's with the Stars and that he's going to grow. I mean, he was an all-star in his first year. He's going to win a Norris Trophy at some point in his career pretty soon, I hope. But he's just been great. He's just an absolute stud. But going back to Game 6, so Heiskanen scores on the one-timer, and then immediately opening up the second period, Dallas is on another power play. And Denis Gurianov, their leading goal scorer in the regular season with 20 goals, who's another rookie, scores from Heiskanen. So Heiskanen gets another point there, but he scores. And you almost had that look where Calgary was like, oh, no. A 3-goal lead in the NHL and in the playoffs is the scariest lead to have, because once you give up that first goal, it almost feels like, oh, what's going to happen? What's going on? And then a lot of times teams end up tying the game or even end up taking the lead, because a 3-goal lead is where a team can get complacent and they can, take their foot off the gas, and they can put their foot on the brake, and they can be kind of, flat-footed on their heels. The other team can come out and catch up and potentially win. So Dallas scores, Denis Gurianov scores in the second period, and it's like, okay, yes, here we go. And then immediately off the faceoff, that same line stays on, and I believe Esa Lindell, who's another great defenseman for Dallas, throws a prayer at the net, and Denis Gurianov tips it. So Denis Gurianov has a second goal in the game. And it's like, wow, okay, that's great. Dallas they just tied it. It's 3-3 in the second period, and Calgary's coach had enough. He pulls Talbot, puts in Riddick, who hadn't seen any action in the NHL since February. It's August. So it's like, oh my goodness, okay. So they're going to put in Riddick, and they take out Talbot. They put Talbot, who was great for them throughout the playoffs, and Calgary beat Winnipeg in the qualifying rounds. But so they pull Talbot, they put in Riddick, and Riddick is just lost. Poor guy, man. He hadn't played. He's out there. Gurianov then again throws a puck at the net, and then Radek Faksa, who's another huge big-time weapon for Dallas, and two-way forward, puts in a juicy rebound that Riddick left. So it's 4-3 Dallas. And then the next time there's a face-off at center ice, I believe there was a little bit of play for a while. The next time there's a face-off at center ice, Dallas wins it, and they're in the zone for a little bit, and then Calgary ices the puck. So Dallas goes back into the zone, and another prayer, I believe by John Klingberg's thrown at the net, and Joe Pavelski puts in the rebound. So Dallas is scoring. I mean, Dallas scored 5 goals in the second period. 1 in the first, 5 in the second. So Joe Pavelski scores that goal. It's 5-3, and Calgary is looking around like, what just happened? What is going on? What are we doing here, boys? Riddick is there trying to figure out what he's doing as well. And then there's a lot of play that goes on from then on out. And again, remember at the beginning of the game, everybody was saying Hudobin doesn't have it. Put in Ottinger. Rick Bowness calls that timeout, and Dallas just wakes up. And it's like, oh boy, here we go. So then Gurianov gets a pass from, I believe, either Rope Hintz or Jason Dickinson, and he's one-on-one there's a defender and the goalie, and he skates to the right, brings a puck back left. He's left-handed, shoots it, goes past Riddick. It's 6-3 Dallas. Denis Gurianov has a hat trick, which is another hat trick for Dallas. And you remember when I said earlier in the podcast that Dallas had never had a hat trick, a postseason hat trick in their playoff history. Pavelski has one in Game 4. Gurianov has one in Game 6, but Gurianov wasn't done scoring. They go to the third period, and they put Talbot back in net. And it's like, well, okay, they pulled him, but they're going to put him back in net. That's fine. Calgary has a couple of chances, but not really. They just kind of just look lifeless, like they got beat. And Kiviranta, remember that name, Joel, as they like to say it in Finland, Kiviranta, puts a puck on net. There's a rebound, and Gurianov, quick wrister, scores. So Gurianov scores 4, and Dallas ends up winning 7-3, and they move on to play Colorado. But before I go on to the Colorado series, Matthew Tkachuk, who's probably the most, if not one of the most popular players for Calgary, and one of the great players in the league, gets hit by Jamie Benn, and basically sandwiched by Jamie Benn and Jamie Alexiak, and he hurts his quad, and he's out for the series. He played, I believe, 1 or 2 games, and then he was unfit to play for the rest of the series. And you could tell when he was up there watching, he was just completely uncomfortable. He was so upset that his team had a 3-0 lead and they just blew it. So that was a big loss for them. But Dallas wins. They shake hands, and they play Colorado. And let me just say that I was just with my eyes open in that Colorado series at how much the NHL and NBC loves Nathan MacKinnon. I could not stand it. Every other word was Nathan MacKinnon, MacKinnon this, MacKinnon that, MacKinnon. I couldn't believe it. It was just Nathan MacKinnon, over and over and over again. And I'm sitting here watching the game with my sister, who was another diehard Stars fan. My family, my parents were watching the game, and every other word is Nathan MacKinnon. It's like, and just before, I'm going to break down the games, but Dallas wins the first 2 games, and it's still, well, what is Nathan MacKinnon this, Nathan MacKinnon that? And it's like, oh my goodness, Nathan MacKinnon. Dallas would win the game, and the NHL and the NBC would still post Nathan MacKinnon. He's a great player. You have to give credit where credit's due. He's one of the best snipers, alternate captains in the league. He is a great, great player. He is good. But, I mean, I don't know if the NHL was just looking for somebody, the last best remaining player, we're going to stick with this guy. And everybody that announces has to announce his name at least 20 times a game or whatever. But anyways, Nathan MacKinnon. It was a tough series for Dallas. So Dallas wins game 1. They open up the scoring with Radulov. Radulov scores the first goal, and it was a big deal. Or actually, Tyler Seguin scores the first goal, and it's a really big deal that Seguin scores the first goal. And it's like, yes, Tyler Seguin scores the first goal against Grubauer, who was in net for Colorado, and then Khudobin was in net for Dallas. And Tyler Seguin scores. The big key for that series was that Dallas's top line needed to get going because they did not get going against Calgary. And Dallas's top line, the top 3 include Radulov, Alexander Radulov, Tyler Seguin, and Jamie Benn. And Radulov, Grubauer plays the puck. Radulov catches a hand pass, puts it down, passes it back to Jamie Benn behind the net, and passes it to Tyler Seguin. Tyler Seguin scores. Boom. Okay, here we go. And then Dallas, or actually before that, Nathan MacKinnon comes down and makes a Nathan MacKinnon play, which is great. And he scores from the point, almost like he was running on ice, and he scores. So it's a 1-1 game. And then Dallas comes back. Miro Heiskanen shoots a slap shot at the net, misses, and I believe Foxa gets it, passes it to Blake Como, who's an alternate captain. He was wearing the A in the white jersey, and he scores. It was redirected by Colorado player, so Heiskanen gets another assist there. So Dallas is leading 2-1, and then Jamie Benn from Foxa or John Klingberg, excuse me, I'm getting ahead of myself here. John Klingberg forechecks well, gets a steal, throws it to Foxa. Foxa kind of dumps it up ice. Jamie Benn wins a foot race. Radulov wins a foot race, passes it to Radulov. He goes 5-hole backhand, and Dallas is winning 3-1. So Dallas is winning 3-1 at the end of the first period in game 1. And it's like, okay, well, Dallas's first line came out to play. So it's like, yes, Dallas's first line came out to play. That's great. And it was just a beautiful sight to see that Dallas's first line came out to play. Second period, Colorado, I believe, scored once or twice. I believe Cale Makar scored. Great defenseman for Colorado. Landeskog, their captain, also had a stuff attempt that went in. But then Dallas gets a breakaway. Tyler Seguin shoots it. Alexander Radulov buries a rebound. But right before that happened, Grubauer was their goaltender, and he is their goaltender. And I don't remember who it was. It may have been Denis Gurianov, but he shoots a shot and a normal save for a goaltender. Grubauer kicks out his right leg, and immediately he's hurt. Colorado gets a puck. They stop play. And his leg, I mean, he's there, and he's just holding his knee, and we're all looking like, oh, my goodness, their top goaltender goes down. And it's like, man, as so many Colorado fans are saying, yeah, our top goaltender wasn't playing well. We won the series with our backup goaltender too. So, I mean, it's kind of was the same thing. So they put in Pablo Francouz in. and that goal was on Pablo Francouz. And Francouz was a part of most of the series for Colorado. And Dallas actually scored a lot on him. They scored, quite a bit on him. So anyway, Dallas, Radulov scores that goal. So then it's all Dallas, and it's like, yes, Dallas scores. They're up 4-2, I believe, and then Colorado scores again. And in the third period, Rope Hintz scores, which was his first goal of the playoffs, which was huge because Rope Hintz, we all know he was their leading goal scorer last year in the 2019 playoffs, and he is a big part of their offense. He's a fast skater, sniper, great shot. He's a goal scorer, pure goal scorer, and he gets going. So then we move on to game two. Dallas wins 5-3. We move on to game two. Colorado scores 2 goals right away. And it's like, man, Colorado scores 2 goals right away. That stinks. Goes into the second period. Again, Francouz in net, Udobin in net. And we go to the second period, and Dallas puts up 4 in the second period. I mean, Dallas played really well in the second period. Dallas puts up 4 in the second period. And my favorite goal was Dallas kills off a power play. They had already scored 3. There's the periods running out in the second period in game 2. And there's about 2 minutes left. Esa Lindell wins a foot race. And he shoots a shot. It's a 2-on-1, I believe, with Cogliano. He shoots a shot, and Francouz makes a save, but Francouz kind of falls down, and Esa Lindell kind of hits at the puck and hits at it again, and there's a famous, it's a picture, and he picks up his left hand and he does this, I scored, and he scores, and Dallas goes up 4-2. So the answer from Dallas was just unbelievable. Dallas goes up 4-2, and it's like, yes, Dallas is winning. Colorado comes back and scores another goal in the third period, and then Jamie Alexiak throws it into an empty net, and Dallas wins the series. Let's remember, and I haven't said this, but let's remember that a lot of people picked Colorado to win the Stanley Cup, and a lot of people picked Colorado to win this series, and they were going to sweep Dallas. That Dallas wasn't good enough. They were gonna sweep Dallas, and that was it, And so Dallas goes up 2-0, and then Grubauer gets hurt, Eric Johnson gets hurt for Colorado, so the injury bug kind of hits Colorado a little bit, but Dallas goes up 2-0, and everybody's freaking out. Dallas, they're beating Colorado. Are you serious? And wow, I can't believe it. Dallas, that's crazy. That's insane. So, anyways, Dallas goes up 2-0, and they play game 3, and Dallas actually comes back. So Dallas was losing 3-1 going into the third period, and I was telling my parents and my sister, be patient, be patient, be patient. Everything's going to be okay. They'll come back right now. Remember, they score in bunches on Francouz, whatever. Dallas scores 3 goals in the third period to go up 4-3. And with 7 minutes left, they have a chance. With 7 minutes left, they have a chance to win the game and go up 3-0 on Colorado. And Colorado answers. And I did not think they were going to answer because, they're down 2-0. They just blew a 3-1 lead in a game. Dallas comes back, and then Jamie Benn caps it off with a tip-in goal, the captain, and it goes in. And it's like, yes, Dallas is winning by 1, and Colorado comes back, scores twice into the empty net. Dallas loses 6-4. It's like, man, that's tough. Okay, Dallas is up 2-1. Then we go to game 4. Dallas comes out hot, 3 goals right away. And again, it's capped off with Jamie Benn. Tyler Seguin scores, Jamie Benn scores, and I believe either Heiskanen or Klingberg scores. And in game 4, and Dallas, they go up 3-0. At the end of the second, Colorado throws up 2 goals, and then in the third period, I'm trying to remember. In the third period, Rope Hintz scores on a beautiful delayed, toe drag shot. He scores, and then Cale Makar turns the puck over in net, and or right close to the net. Gurianov beats everybody and taps it in. Poor Francouz had no idea where the puck was. Pablo Francouz for Colorado, their goaltender. Cale Makar turns it over. Gurianov scores. He's one of the leading goal scorers along with Joe Pavelski in this postseason right now, and it's exciting because Dallas goes up 5-2. Dallas ends up winning 5-4, but after that Gurianov goal, when Cale Makar turned it over, they pulled Francouz, and we would not see Francouz for the rest of the series, which was crazy because Grubauer was already hurt, and Grubauer was on a plane immediately to Colorado. He's like, "This is bad. I'm not going to come back from this. I'm not going to play through this." Francouz gets hurt. I don't know if he gets hurt, but he gets pulled, and he was unfit to play after that. So then Colorado brings in their third string goaltender, Michael Hutchinson, and he faces 3 shots, I think, in that game. And Colorado scores 2, I believe, Valerie Nichushkin, former Dallas Star, scores on just a ridiculous shot. And then with 4 seconds left with an empty net, Colorado scores, making it 5-4. Dallas wins a faceoff. Dallas wins are up 3-1. Michael Hutchinson, their third string goalie, starts game 5. And out of nowhere, Ben Bishop starts game 5. Haven't heard anything about him. Was unfit to play till about 5 p.m. The game started at 7. And then all of a sudden, there's a tweet by, I believe, either Sean Shapiro or I don't know, maybe anybody else that does reporting for Dallas. And, Ben Bishop's in net. Oh, my goodness. Scary, but it's like, you know what? It's all right. It was a back-to-back. Udobin has, played his butt off. He's played really well. And you don't want to put Jake Ottinger in that. He's just 21. It's just an emergency. And we throw in Ben Bishop, and it's like, well, hey, he's our number 1 goaltender. Hudobin's gotten us to this point. We have a 3-1 lead. Can you imagine if Ben Bishop gets his groove back? He has Ben Bishop of old. He's good, and, maybe we'll see what happens. And Rick Bowness makes that decision. And everybody trashed Rick Bowness for making that decision. Dallas lost that game. Colorado put up 5 goals in the first period. But, Ben Bishop gave up 4, I believe. But I'm not going to necessarily give credit to Ben Bishop, but Dallas did not come out to play. Those first 10 minutes were awful. Poor Ben Bishop hasn't played since August, or since like August 13th. It's like August 25th when this game is going on. And Dallas just doesn't come out to play, and Colorado's throwing pucks on net, and Ben Bishop is having to make saves left and right, rebounds. You know what happens. Colorado has Nazem Kadri, Landeskog, Kale McCarr, as I mentioned, Nathan McKinnon, and they're just scoring goals left and right. And it's like, oh my goodness. Okay, so it's 5-0. Udobin comes in, and Dallas kind of makes a run. It's 5-3, and then Udobin gives up 1 goal or 2 goals, I believe, and Dallas ends up losing 6-3. Big deal, not a big deal. Okay, Dallas is still winning the series, 3-2. Fine. Game 6. Hutchinson's still in net. Miro Heiskanen, throws something at the net. It goes in. It's like, okay, well, Dallas has him here. We'll be okay. Colorado scores 3 unanswered. Dallas doesn't score anymore, and it's a game 7. It's a game 7. The best skater for Dallas is Andrew Cogliano. Came from the Ducks along with Corey Perry, but he came about a year or 2 before that. And he's unfit to play, and Taylor Fedun is unfit to play. So the rookies, Hanley and Joel Kiviranta come in. Joel Kiviranta is undrafted out of Finland. I believe he's 24, 25 years old. And he has a game of his life. This game is fresh. It just happened. And I am just like, oh my goodness, this kid, game of his life. It's a Sunday. No, it's actually a Friday. It was this past Friday. Today is Monday, but it was this past Friday. It's game 7. Alexander Radulov opens up the scoring, and it's like, yes, okay, he opens up the scoring. Not even a minute later, Colorado answers. It's Udobin against Hutchinson. So Colorado answers, within the next minute, and then Colorado scores the next goal. So Colorado scores the next goal, and it was almost like it was momentum shift after momentum shift in Game 7. And I was looking forward to talking about this on my podcast because Game 7s are very tricky. A lot of people say, well, Colorado, came back from a 3-1 lead and they tied it. Yes, but there's no such thing as momentum going into a Game 7, I feel. I believe the momentum you get in from a Game 7 is, especially in any game, but especially in hockey, is from the moment the puck drops. So if you win all your battles, you come out hard to play. You come out physical, you forecheck, you check, you play defense, you get a lot of chances, you throw pucks on net. You're not just throwing prayers, you're getting to the net and driving and, taking quality shots, getting quality chances. That's the momentum that you need. So Game 7, it was a little tricky, but Dallas opens up, like I said, with that first goal. Colorado scores, and then Colorado scores again, and it's 2-1, and it's dang it. So then it goes to the second period, and then Gurianov, Dallas is on a power play, and then Gurianov throws a puck to the net, and Kirivanta, the rookie, scores his first career postseason NHL goal. Sick. All right, here we go. He had only played in 11 games in the regular season. He hadn't played in any of the 6 games in the Colorado series. He played 1 game and had 1 assist against Calgary. And he redirects this Gurianov shot and ties the game for Dallas at 2-2. Huge goal. Huge goal. All right, perfect. So then Colorado comes back in the same period and takes the lead. So it's 3-2 Colorado going into the third. You don't know what to think. Goudobin has been okay. Hutchinson's been all right too. They've both been a little shaky. And Colorado has a lot of chances in the third, but it gets to about the 8-minute mark. And then John Klingberg throws a wrister to the net, and Alexander Radulov tips the puck in. So it's 3-3 Dallas. It's like, yes, we're back in it. It's a tie game with 8 minutes left. And speaking of momentum, at the beginning of the game, at the beginning of talking about this game, Dallas had all the momentum in the world after that Radulov goal. Dallas had so many chances. Gurianov had an open net and threw it off the post. He kind of didn't look. If he would have taken his time, he would have scored, and Dallas would have been up 4-3, and who knows what would have happened then. But Dallas has all these chances. Dallas has a chance to clear the zone. Joe Pavelski backhands a puck that stays in the zone. Colorado throws a prayer to the net, and Colorado scores with 3 minutes and I believe 41 or 21 seconds left. And it's just I was checking my heart rate. We bought an oxygen and heartbeat per minute or pulse meter here at my house. My sister got it, just checking to just make sure that we're healthy with the coronavirus going on. And we're checking it throughout the game. And right before that happened, I had checked it, and my heart rate was, I believe, at 80 beats per minute with, but everything was fine. And, with the nerves and with hockey and what hockey does and what it's done for me, especially watching the Stars. I've loved the Stars forever. Since Mike Modano, Brett Hull, since those days with Ed Belfour and Langenbrunner and all these different. Darian Hatcher was probably one of my favorite players as well. And just growing up and watching hockey, there was a hockey team here in Laredo. This was a big moment for them because, like I had told you, there was almost this mental block that Dallas doesn't get past the second round, and it's always Game 7. They were winning the series 3-2, they end up losing. And you look at Tyler Sagan's won a cup, Ben Bishop's been to the final, but most of those players, besides maybe Corey Perry and Joe Pavelski, all the other players had never been to a conference final. And it's Game 7. Colorado scores that goal, and it's just lifeless. It's a feeling that you never want to have as a sports fan. But 11 seconds later, Colorado turns the puck over. Kirivanta gets it, passes it to Hintz. Hintz shoots it. Kirivanta gets a rebound. Kirivanta scores his second career postseason goal 11 seconds after Colorado took the lead, and it's a 4-4 game, with about 3 minutes and 10 seconds left. So it's like, he tied it. Okay. So every possession after that, which again, I said Dallas had all the momentum, they went back and they scored and they tied it. And Dallas had all these possessions. Joe Pavelski is robbed at the buzzer by Hutchinson. It's overtime. It's his personal information, but my heart rate was almost at 120 to 125, maybe even 130 beats per minute in overtime. It's Game 7. It's in overtime. If you remember at the beginning of the podcast and beginning of this talk show, Dallas lost in Game 7 in double overtime last year in St. Louis. Dallas is a designated road team, and they're playing against Colorado, and Colorado has thrown a lot of pucks towards the net that get tipped in and no chance for Khudobin. So my heart rate and everything, I'm just, I don't even know how to control myself. I'm trying to drink water and I'm shaking, drinking, tea, whatever, Gatorade, just to watch the game. But then I did something kind of crazy. So I got a new phone. I got the iPhone 11 Pro. Really excited about that. So I put out a tweet and I drafted, and it says Dallas advances to the Western Conference Finals for the first time since 2008. And I didn't tweet about it. It was during the intermission. I saved it. And then I remembered, so the history between Dallas and Colorado going into a series like this, when it goes into Game 7, Dallas always wins. And I was like, well, all of that can get broken. It's a stat to have just because they're playing each other. But when Dallas played them in 1999 and played them in 2000, Each time they won the series in 7, and each time they went to the Stanley Cup final. So I'm like, okay, well, that's a good stat to have. It's a good stat to look at, and it just so happens that anytime Dallas and Colorado play, that's what happens. So I'm looking at that, and I'm like, well, this is Game 7. You never know what can happen. So Colorado and Dallas come out. Dallas still has the momentum coming in from the third period. Colorado gets a couple of chances, nothing crazy. McKinnon, I believe, throws a shot on net. Udobin saves it, and then there was a wraparound attempt that Udobin saves as well. Dallas gets a bunch of chances, and then Dallas has a lot of zone time. Dallas is able to change, and Kiviranta stays in. And remember, he scores 2 huge goals to tie the game. And it's like, okay, well, Kiviranta's doing this. That's great. Let's hope that he keeps it up, and we'll see, what can happen, who's going to be the hero if Dallas wins. So Alexiak throws a puck on net, doesn't score. Throws a puck on net, doesn't score. Alexiak gets it, comes all the way behind the net, dumps it to Sekera, who goes all the way behind the net and stays behind the net. And I'm looking, and there's no pressure from Colorado. So he's literally standing still with his stick behind the net, just looking. And Kiviranta is, having a net battle with somebody else right in front of Hutchinson, the goaltender. And he looks at Sekera, and he backskates a little bit, and he opens himself up. The person that was on Kiviranta stays right in front of Hutchinson and doesn't move. Hutchinson is on his net, and he's almost looking back at Sekera. And Sekera, and my dad called this out, and I thought it was hilarious, but Sekera looks at Kiviranta when he moves back a little bit into the slot. There's nobody on him, and he passes it to him. And that was a look on his face when he passed it to him, because he knew that was a prime opportunity for Dallas to win. And he passes it to him. Kiviranta, it's a one-timer, and he scores. By the time Hutchinson could turn back and look, puck was in the net. Game over. Dallas is moving on to the Western Conference Finals. One of the moments that I'll cherish forever. That in my lifetime, at least when I was older and could remember Dallas. I was a kid in 2008. I was 11 years old, so I remember watching those games, but it was just a little bit more special to me because this is a new generation of Stars players in Klingberg, Heiskanen, Hintz, Ben, Sagan, Radulov, Bishop, Udobin. That's just a new generation of players, and they had never been to the conference final. And I remember just not even remembering what happened, but just I forget what the announcer's name is on NBC, but very deep voice. But he said he scores, and Dallas moves on to the conference final. Kiviranta's jumping. Everybody, Udobin's going crazy, and I get up and I jump up and I hug my sister and my family, and we're all jumping and hugging each other at the same time, and it's just a great moment. Colorado loses. They put the camera on Nathan McKinnon. It's awesome. And Dallas moves on, and it's like, okay, well, then we need to find out who's going to win between Vegas and Vancouver to see who plays Dallas. And we're jumping up and down. It's a great day. We're sitting down eating dinner. I immediately went and I opened up a beer out of celebration. I was all excited, and I just couldn't believe that Dallas had moved on. And it was just a great feeling, and it was something that I'll remember forever. But Dallas moves on, and it's like finally we don't have to hear McKinnon all over again, just a joke. But it was a truth. I mean, McKinnon, that name just came up too many times. Dallas would do something good, and they'd be like, yeah, but McKinnon did this, or McKinnon is better at this. So you don't have to hear that anymore. Dallas moves on. We find out that, Yo-Yo Kiviranta, he's a third player to have a hat trick this postseason. Remember, Dallas had not had a postseason hat trick in their 25-year existence, or 27 years, actually, that they've been in existence. And they have 3 this postseason: Pavelski, Gurianov, and Kiviranta. Kiviranta had his first career playoff goal in the same game that he sends Dallas to the conference final. Unbelievable. So Vegas wins, and it's Vegas versus Dallas. Robin Lehner and Marc-Andre Fleury are the goaltenders for Vegas. Great goaltenders. Dallas has Udobin. Udobin starts. Yesterday was the game. And Andrew Cogliano, as I mentioned earlier, is Dallas's best skater, but he's a healthy scratch. How do you take Kiviranta out when he scores a hat trick and sends you to the Western Conference Final? So Cogliano, a healthy scratch. You have Janmark, that's a game time decision, and it can be between Cogliano and Janmark who's going to play these games. But Janmark's playing well; he's generating a lot of chances. But yesterday, anyway, Dallas opens up the game, and it's Vegas Dallas on Saturday. The day before the game. Today's Monday. Vegas takes the day off. Dallas actually prepares and gets in a little lights practice, works out, learns about Vegas a little bit And they have Shea Theodore, who's the comparison with Miro Heiskanen. They have Ryan Reeves, who was out. He was suspended. They have Stone. They have Pacioretty. They have a lot of good players, and they're very good, solid physical team that works hard to score goals and to defend, and they have solid goaltending. Anyway, Dallas yesterday, when the pucks drops, they come out and they're forechecking like crazy and hitting and generating chances. And Jamie Benn throws a first shot on goal. It's a rebound. Fleury starts the game because Fleury had a 3-0 record in his career against Dallas since he's moved to Vegas. Before he was in Pittsburgh, where he won 3 Stanley Cups. But Fleury starts the game, and he kicks his save out. It goes right to John Klingberg. John Klingberg shoots stick side. He scores. It's 1-0 Dallas, and that's all the game needed. Dallas wins 1-0, and the defense between both teams was great. Dallas generated a lot of chances. Vegas generated a lot of chances too. They both had 25 shots on net to end the game. Dallas had some better chances. They just didn't finish, but they didn't need to. Udobin was excellent. He was fantastic. Fleury was pretty good too, but Dallas scored the 1 goal. Vegas didn't. Vegas had an empty net as well, and they didn't score. Ben had a chance to shoot at the empty net, and he missed, but either way, he held the puck in. 3 seconds to 1, game over. Puck's in Dallas' zone because Vegas iced it with like 20 seconds left. So Dallas takes the 1-0 win and 1-0 series lead in the Western Conference Finals. Again, Ryan Reeves had a hit against Vancouver that cost him a 1-game suspension. So tomorrow Dallas plays at 7 against Vegas, and he'll be back in the lineup. Udobin gets his first career playoff shutout, and it was actually his first shutout this year, which was crazy. But Udobin, he gets his shutout, and it was a big moment for him. He's a backup goaltender. Ben Bishop is still unfit to play, so Ottinger's a backup. And Udobin has an excellent game. Dallas has an excellent game defensively. Vegas generated some chances there towards the end, but because they had an empty net and they were pushing back because Dallas was playing a little defensively. And Dallas wins, and there's game 2 tomorrow. That's pretty much, I guess, just a recap of the Dallas Stars playoff run as of yet. What we've seen from John Klingberg and Miro Heiskanen, them and the defensemen. Dallas has the best defense scoring-wise in the league right now, or we're the remaining teams, and they have had all playoffs. Pavelski and Gurianov are up there with the goals. Heiskanen is leading in points, and Heiskanen's, the consummate leader right now for the odds, and he would probably be the pick. He's a power ranking number 1 player left in the playoffs. Jamie Benn's playing well. Radulov's playing well. Klingberg's playing excellent. Look for Tyler Seguin and potentially either Jason Dickinson or Rope Hintz to have a big series for Dallas this series. To have a big series and to score a couple of goals. I'm looking for Tyler Seguin to, wake up a little bit and be the Tyler Seguin that we all know and love as Dallas Stars fans. And Matthias Janmark's generating a bunch of chances. One has to go in. I've been watching The Hockey Guy. If you see this, A Hockey Guy, I hope you do at least. But, Janmark's generating a bunch of chances. One has to go into the net eventually. Cogliano's our best skater. We'll see if he comes back. Kiviranta playing really well. Let's see what he can do. Hintz, Gurianov, Pavelski, Corey Perry, keep grinding and, playing well. But we'll see if Dallas can do some damage and potentially make the Cup final. And we'll see who comes out of the East. But other than that, I guess that concludes me talking about Dallas Stars and their playoff run and the conference final. So we'll see how that works. Again, it's Tampa Bay and New York, the Islanders, who hadn't been to the conference final since 1993. Dallas hadn't been since 2008. Vegas hadn't been since their inaugural year when they went to the final and lost to Washington in 2017, I believe. And Tampa Bay had been in recent years. They had been in the final in recent years. And Tampa Bay had been to the conference finals in recent years. Last year, they were supposed to be the favorite to win it all, but they lost in the first round to Columbus. But we'll see what happens with that. Other than that, tonight, the Celtics and the Raptors play in the NBA bubble. I want to know what you guys think about that real quick. So in the NBA bubble, the players that are remaining in the playoffs, their families were able to come and watch them. Do you think the NHL should have done that? Or do you think the NHL is being very cautious on who they allow? Because it's in Canada, remember that. The NBA is in Florida. But do you think that the NHL should allow families to go for the Stanley Cup final, if they should at all? And I want to know what you guys think, which bubble you think is better. Look for me, guys, to post a little bit about baseball and what's going on with baseball and what's going on with basketball in the upcoming days, and with hockey as well, because I'm a huge Stars fan and hoping that the Stars do well. But I want to thank you guys. I know it's been a long episode, 55 minutes, but this is episode 20, a big episode. I hadn't posted an episode in a while, but I'm here posting one, and look for me to post more. Go Dallas Stars, and I will talk to you guys later. See you soon.